Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nurul Hanisa binti Muhammad Saleh, my partner is Nurul Syamimi binti Nazmi, and our supervisor Puan Faria Hassan. Welcome to our presentation, to our panel and all the views. So today, we're going to present about our VIVA, that is Factor Lead UiTM Graduate Intention to Become an Entrepreneur. And this is the outline that we will present, which is Chapter 1 is about the introduction, Chapter 2 about literature review, Chapter 3 is methodology, Chapter 4 is about findings, and last is Chapter 5, the result and discussion. So our work nowadays are undergoing COVID-19 pandemic, which result in unemployment increase in especially among graduation university students. So many students nowadays are seen involved in entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is an individual who create a new business, bear most of the risk and enjoy most of the rewards. Entrepreneurship that does not end in a profit is less common in the market for individuals involved, and is being supported by most of the study. A problem statement. So there are two problems that inspire us to this project. First one is the individual tend to generate their own income. Rising unemployment in Malaysia is one of the concerns that young Malaysians need to be aware of in order to take action and avoid becoming unemployed. The second one is increase in employment at present is a result of the economic problem plaguing the country. Entrepreneur activity have the potential to be a catalyst for economic growth and capacity building, thereby increasing a country innovation, creativity, and competitiveness. As a result, entrepreneurship is one of the strategy that might assign in strengthening the economy and reduce the number of unemployed people in the country.
Assalamualaikum, I am the second candidate, Nurul Syamimi binti Nazmi. My ID student 2020982949. Okay, now let's proceed with the research question. There are three research questions. Firstly, does the personal attitude influence the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur? Secondly, does the subjective norm influence the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur? Lastly, does the perceived behavioral control influence the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur? Next, there are three research objectives. First, to investigate the relationship between the personal attitude and graduate intention to become an entrepreneur. The second, to identify the relationship between the subjective norm and graduate intention to become an entrepreneur. The last one, to examine the relationship between the perceived behavioral control and the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur. For the conceptual framework, there are three independent variables, such as personal attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control, while the dependent variable is interest to involve in the entrepreneurship. Okay, now hypothesis. The first hypothesis is personal attitude. Hashnoll showed there are no significant relationship between the personal attitude and the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur. H1, there is a significant relationship between the personal attitude and graduate intention to become an entrepreneur. The second hypothesis is subjective norm. H0 showed there are no significant relationship between the subjective norm and the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur. H2, there is a significant relationship between the subjective norm and the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur. The last hypothesis is the perceived behavior control. H0 showed there are no significant relationship between the perceived behavior control and the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur. And H3 showed there is a significant relationship between the perceived behavior control and the graduate.
Let's move to the next part, which is methodology. This research was used the questionnaire to collect the data. It is conducted by using Google Form for data collection and was distributed to participate via social media platforms. As for our research methodology, first research design we are choosing quantitative method and cross-sectional survey in order for collect data, and it will be respond to all of the study goal at a time given. For the unit analysis, student in UiTM Seremban 3 perception toward the research that will be conducted. For sample size, there are 285 students among UiTM Seremban 3. For sampling technique, this research study we using the convenience and proposing sampling technique. For data measurement, the variable will be used is scale which is 1 until 5. From 1 as a strongly disagree and 5 as a strongly agree. For data collection, there will be 5 sections which is A until E. Section A, there are demographic data. Section B, level of personal attitude. Section C, subjective norm. Section D, perceptive behavior control. And last section E, where entrepreneur intention. And lastly is data analysis, is we are using descriptive analysis, and percent chi-square is applying to complete the exploration of the data collected. This research we began after the ethical approval was granted by research ethic coming UiTM, and the recruitment was performed to the target student, and then a link to the Google form that containing questionnaire was distributed student FSPPP through social media platform. And after that, the data were collected and analyzed for further finding.
For the finding, the gender demographic profile show the highest is 73%, which is the 2008 respondent of female, followed by 27% of the 77 respondent of male. Next age, the majority in between 23 to 27 years old, which is 93.3% of the 209 respondents, followed by the 80 to 22 years old, which is the 20% of 57 respondents, and the last one is the 28 to 32, which is the 6.7% of 90 respondents. Other than that, the religious, for the Malay race, which is 91.2% of 260 respondents, followed by the Christian of the 5.6% of 60 respondents. Next, the Buddha is 2.8% of 8 respondents, and the last one is others of 0.4% of 1 respondents. For the education demographic profile, show the highest is degree, which is the 76.8% of 290 respondents, and followed by the diploma, which is the 23.2% of 60 respondents. For the residential, the semi-urban area get the 70.5% of the 201 respondents, and the rural area is 29.5% of 84 respondents. Finally, the current status of finding, the highest is merit, which is 89.8% of 256 respondents, and followed by merit of the 9.8% of the 28 respondents, and the last one is others of the 0.4% of 1 respondents. Okay, let's go further with the main finding. Based on the objective 1, the analysis being used is person or experiment. The R value show is 0.739, while the P value 0.00. So accept H1 and reject H0. Next, based on the objective 2, the analysis being used also same, which is the person or experiment. The R value shows 0.677, while the P value is 0.00. So the result is accept S2 and reject H0. Based on the objective 3, The analysis used is percent or experiment. The R value shows 0.560 and the P value is 0.00. So the result of outcome is accept H3 and reject H0.
This is our research limitation. For the first limitation is limited model, which can be considered a study defect because we only look at a few independent variable models. The research focused entirely on the element covered in the literature review. This results in the study independent variable having minimal variation, limiting the research ability to learn more. Where the future research, several models can be used to determine the primary determinant influencing entrepreneur intent among graduate and postgraduate students. Second is quantitative approach. The answer is determined by the value of the scale, which is 1 until 5, which is 1 is strongly disagree and 5 is a strongly agree. The answer is objective or does not count personal point of view. So I think for the future suggestion, the research should use other method of approach in getting answer of the survey on of the approach of method is by using interview observe of or others. Last limitation is limited sample. Generally, it can be understand how governance the outcome of the study for a wider group of people where there are a tendency of people which functional to a very limited population. As we know that our research is only limited to only one university, which is UiTM Seremban 3, where the future research, I think the research should run a expert and research sampling location and population to other university. I think it will be the research to obtain an outcome with higher accuracy.
As a conclusion, favor on attitude and subjective norm provide the motivation toward behavior, but specific intention when only the perceived behavior control is really strong, as in 2012. So based on the research, all of the variables show the significantly correlated relationship to each others that can convincing in determining the graduate intention to become an entrepreneur.